Welcome back to Assisted Living Investing. I'm your host, Brett Chotkeys, and we are talking through everything to do with assisted living. How do I get my first deal done? How do I raise the money? How do I hire a manager? How do I run my operations company? Because this is the deal, the one and done deal that changed my life. This is the deal that set me on the path for financial freedom. This is the deal that takes care of my family and provides a huge savings and investing amount of money for me. This is the deal that allows me to spend an abundance of time with my wife, my kids, be at every school event and game, and this has been a life-changing deal for me. So today's gonna be awesome because we are gonna be showing how we raise money for this. I'll break down exactly how you can raise $2 million for building your first assisted living mansion. So our building's about 10,000 square feet. I'll show you here's exactly how you can do this, and it's not nearly as scary as people think. People reach out to me and they say, hey Brett, I really wanna do this kind of deal. I really wanna open an assisted living. I have a huge heart for this. I love seniors. I wanna take care of people. I have the experience, but I don't know how to raise the money. This number scares me, right? Like I can do this 6-bed kind of deal, right? Because I can wrap my head around those numbers, but I know it doesn't make sense. I know I'm not gonna be profitable. I know I'm gonna be a slave to my business, almost like my own employee and not really an entrepreneur. But how can I do your style of deal? How do I do this 16-bed, right? How do I raise $2 million for it? Because people get scared about that kind of number. And I was initially scared about it, but it's pretty simple. So I'm gonna break it down today. I'll show you what the numbers look like. I got my trusty whiteboard out here and we are gonna be breaking this down step by step. And I think it's way more approachable. It's way easier than many people think. So at the end here, stay to the end because I'll break down who can do this deal and who is not ready for it. But I tell you what, most people that think they are not ready for this, you are pretty close to being able to do this. You may be able to do this deal. So that's why I think it's so important that we break this down because it is very, very achievable and it's not as difficult as some people might think. So let's take a look at the numbers. All right, so here is my numbers. This is what it looks like to build out one of our mansions. Our buildings are about 10,000 square feet and they're about $170 a square foot for just the building. So right here, I have my 1.7 million. This is for just the building, right? Then below it, I have the land. What does your land cost? Okay, so I like about an acre. About 1 acre will get this kind of deal done, and it's a perfect amount. So you can always do bigger, but 1 acre, right? So I have in here budgeted $200,000. All right, so then there's also the site. The site has to do with connecting to the utilities, it's the landscaping, it's the driveway, it's everything that's gonna be outside of the building, right? All of those kind of things. So I have in here $100,000 budgeted for your site. So here are my hard costs, right? Here are the actual things that are physical, okay? That adds up to $2 million. So this is my $2 million that I'm trying to get. This is my 10,000 square foot memory care mansion. It's gorgeous. Everything is beautiful about it. It is purpose designed. It is the most gorgeous thing you can do, and it will make the highest rent. So this is why I love this product. If you built this $2 million mansion, what do you need for funds? So I'm gonna break down one specific way to do it. Now, there are multiple ways to do this, right? You could raise private money for the whole thing. You could go hard money. You could go commercial loans. We're gonna talk today about SBA financing and how I imply this type of structure for this deal because I think it is the most approachable. And if you have limited experience or this is your first deal, this may be the easiest way to do this. So let's break this down. If you are gonna go this way and you are going to do an SBA loan, you may be able to get 10% down. Okay, SBA has a program for 10% down. So if we're talking about $2 million, that's our building, right? 10% down would be $200,000. So in that perspective, can you come up with $200,000 because the bank behind them, they're gonna come up with the extra 1.8, right? So let's come at it from this perspective. It's not that big and that scary of a number, but that's not all the money we need, right? We still need a bunch of other money. We need working capital. We need interest reserves while we're building. We need other things. So let's talk about what other dollars we do need. I got it written down here. Let's take a look. We're gonna have plans and permits, right? You're gonna have to pay engineers and architects to create your building. You're gonna have to pay city permit fees and things like that. So I have $50,000 budgeted in here. And then what about FF&E? That's furniture, fixtures, appliances, all of those things. You have to decorate your home, right? You have to fill it with plates and silverware and couches and all these different things. So that has an expense to it, right? That is $50,000 here. Then what about working capital? Those first few months, you may be at a loss. As you're bringing in grandmas and grandpas, you may not be stabilized yet, right? So you have to have money for working capital. So I have budgeted $100,000 here for working capital. And then interest reserves. Now let's think about this. You're gonna spend 12 months building a new construction memory care mansion. 12 months while you are making an interest payment, right? Do you have the money for those interest payments? So you can borrow the money for the interest reserves, right? That will get tacked onto the loan. It's not free money, but nonetheless, it's money that you can still borrow. So I have budgeted $300,000 for this. That really means that you can have 18 months of interest reserves. That's 18 months. That's 12 months to build your building. Maybe get your license after that, and that might take a month or two. And then you have to bring in your grandmas and grandpas, and you still may not be making a profit yet. So you could potentially borrow 18 months of interest reserves, okay? And I ran this number at 9%. That's really where the market is right now. So it's high, and that's what it is, but it still works with these numbers. So I have $300,000 in there. So I have my hard costs up here at the top. Here's my site, my $2 million building. Then I have all of these other soft costs down here, which add up to another $500,000. So we have $2.5 million total. That is our total amount that we need from day one all the way through. We are stabilized. We are making a profit. We need $2.5 million. So that same principle of 10% down, right? This loan that you can get will finance all of these things, right? It'll finance the building, the site, the landscaping, the land. It'll finance these permits, the FF&E, the working capital, the interest reserves. All of these things can be wrapped into the loan, and 10% down is what you need. So now here's our new number, right? Now we have 2.5 million and we need 10% of that. That's $250,000. Think about that. That's not too scary of a number to come up with $250,000. That's okay. If you're going to compare it to 2.5 million, 250,000 is okay. I can come up with $250,000. I may have it or I may not, but I know that plenty of other people have it. I know that I have friends and family or friends of friends that have hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting in their retirement, sitting in the stock market, sitting in crypto, sitting somewhere and making poor returns, right? So I want to find those people because this is not that scary of a number. 250,000 is not that intimidating. I can come up with 250,000. So let's talk about how do I get that money? How do I get $250,000 and I'll have all the capital that I need partnering with the bank as my lender to get my entire $2.5 million deal done. So we have $250,000 that we need to raise. So let's talk about this. How do we structure this? What do we do here? So we have the bank, right? The bank is going to come in at 90%. So that's $2,250,000. That's what they're coming in with, right? They're going to give majority of the money. Then we want to bring on an investor partner. We want to have them come up with that 10%. Now, if we have some of that capital, then great. We may have all of that capital, then fantastic. You don't need an investor partner at all. But if you do need that capital or you want to keep your own capital as a reserve, as a backup to this, then you may want to raise this $250,000. So it's 10% of the money. Okay, so they're going to bring in this $250,000 here. Now, here's an important distinction. If they are coming up with the money, the investor partner, then that is equity, and that is not debt. So meaning when you structure this deal, you cannot set it up as debt. It's not a second position loan after the bank because you have to come up with a 10% down payment. Down payment means cash. It does not mean a loan. So there's been some other questions I've had as people looking at some of my other raising money videos where I talk about debt versus equity. I talk about profit sharing and how I structured this deal, and I raised all the money on debt. This is not how to do it on this one. On this example, going through this with the SBA financing, you will need the 10% as a equity position. Okay, so you're bringing on an actual partner here. They're going to have ownership in the company, in the real estate company. Okay, so it's got to be equity. It cannot be debt for this type of deal. Now, if you want to say to somebody, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Investor, I want you to invest in me, right? In my company, in what we're doing. How do you structure something like that? So let's talk through this, because this is a home run of a deal. This is a huge, huge opportunity for two things. One, for cash flow, because the cash flow can be crazy. We talked most recently about how I structure my numbers, what it looks like, how I easily can make $50,000 a month. You can see how I structure all of my numbers, my income, my expenses, my profit, and I'll break the whole thing down for you. So $50,000 a month, this is what we're talking about for cash flow, and that's what I'm going to use in this example. The second win in this is the equity build. Once you build your mansion, it's going to go up in value. You add a license and a business to it, and it's going to skyrocket in price. So it's not just a building. You have now a business to it, right? You are making income. You can sell this thing on the back end, or you can rent it on the back end on a triple net, and you have huge, huge winning potential, a huge exit strategy on this deal. So we're going to talk about both of these things as you are structuring this and raising money, because both of these things are big wins that you need to address with your potential investors. So let's take a look. All right, so here's our first example in blue. You're offering them 10% equity. They have given 10% of the capital, and they're getting 10% equity, right? So let's talk through this. If you are making $50,000 a month, that's $600K a year, 10% of that is $60,000. So here's what they're getting, $60,000 a year, right? And let's just say you want to present this deal as a 10-year deal. You're going to start day one, you're going to build it, you're going to get your license, bring in your grandmas and grandpas, and then you're going to run it for probably the next 8.5 years after that, right? So it's a 10-year deal, and then you're going to say, hey, at 10 years, we are going to sell, or we're going to exit this deal at some type of way. We'll refinance, something's going to happen, but this is a 10-year commitment from you and me, and your money is not stuck here forever. We have an exit strategy, and that's going to be 10 years. Okay, now you can set it whatever you like, but I think, probably 7, 10, 15 years, somewhere in that range. Not too short, not crazy long. Now you're going to say, okay, 10 years, right? Now we're building this right now at $2.5 million. That's our total capital, that's our total loan. But 10 years from now, it's going to be more than that. So it's going to be, say, $5 million. And it might honestly be a lot more than that, right? Before inflation, before COVID, right, I built my first assisted living, and it's tripled in price. Now, granted, inflation's been crazy, but what's going to happen 10 years from now? That's a long time. I think it's safe to say you can double this value from 2.5 to 5. Okay, so now you are looking at an extra $250,000 that they get of that, right? You're going to increase the building by $2.5 million. They have 10% of that, so $250K. Now let's take a look at this. What is their return going to be? Because year one and year two, it may be zero. Definitely year one may be zero. But so this is going to look like this, right? You have year 1 and 2. You are building, you are getting your license, you are getting your grandmas and grandpas moved in, and you are not stabilized yet, maybe till about the 18-month mark, 15-month mark, 20-month mark, somewhere in there. So then we have year 1 and 2, zero profit. Then we're bringing up here, okay, the 60K. Now we didn't account for inflation, we didn't account for anything, just to make it simple for you. Okay, so 60K year 3, 60K year 4, year 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, 60K every single year. That's what we're projecting here. Then you have year 10. This is our exit. This is when we are selling, right? So you have the $250,000 here plus the 60K, right? So now you have $310,000 in that last year of this deal. So you can have an average annual return of about 29%. So even on year 1 and 2, when you're making $0, it's still averaged out to 29%. I mean, that is a huge deal. This is a winning deal, and it's safe. It is safe for that investor once the building is built, because now they have real property. Their money is not in something weird like the stock market or crypto or something where like something happens in another country and all of a sudden like the stocks are down, right? Like your building's not going to crash or depreciate, right? Like you're going to have insurance, it's going to be safe and stabilized. So that is a fantastic deal. Let's talk about an even better deal for your investor. Let's talk about this here. What if you offered them 19%? Okay, and why did I pick 19? I did not pick 20% specifically because at 20%, then that investor needs to personally guarantee. So we're bringing them up to the limit before they personally guarantee. Okay, let's see what this looks like. At 19% of the deal, they are bringing in that same 19% of 600K a year. That's $114,000. Okay, so every year they're getting this 114. So we're going to structure it the same way. 10-year deal. You're going to exit on year 10. Okay, you have the same appreciation from 2.5 million to 5 million. So you're going to split this 2.5 million in profit at the sale, and they will get 19%, which is $475,000. So same time as last time. You are not making money year 1, maybe year 2, and then year 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They have this $114,000 that comes to them at their 19%. Then in year 10, you also have the $114,000, but you also have this $475,000. Okay, you exited the deal, they are getting paid out on everything. So over that 10 years, you have an average annualized return of 46%. Their $250K is making a huge amount of money. That is a massive, massive win for them and for you. This is something, either of these, that are awesome options for you. Okay, so when would you want to go above 20%? Because there are clearly times you would want to, as the owner, give away more than 20% or maybe trade more than 20%. So let's talk through that, because there are some times where your balance statement, your personal balance statement may not be strong enough. Your W-2 income may not be strong enough. Your assets that you have, your personal balance sheet may not be strong enough to come for collateralization. So you will have this collateralization against the real property, but what if it's not enough? What if you need more collateralization? What if you need like a personal residence or rental properties to put as a second position lien on this as extra collateral? And that may happen sometimes. That may happen based on your deal. It may happen if your appraisal comes in a little short. You may have to add extra collateral. Or perhaps you just need a stronger person that can personally guarantee. If your W-2 income is not as stable, you've been jumping around with jobs, or maybe you just don't have quite the credit score, you may want to bring on that partner because they're going to be your stabilized person with the great credit, with the money in the bank, with the rental properties, with the great W-2 income statement. You're going to want somebody, if this is the case, that can be that anchor for the bank, that can make the bank feel comfortable. So you may want them to personally guarantee, which means you'd want to offer them more than 20%. So in this circumstance, this is one way that I would say, hey, if you don't have all your ducks in a row, your finances are not fantastic, you can still do this deal, but you're going to partner with someone and you're going to leverage their great credit, their financial history, their great personal balance sheet, right? So let's break this down. If we are going to offer more than 20% equity, this is what I would suggest. Okay, you can offer between 20 and 49% equity. I would not offer more than 50% because now you're giving away more than half the company, right? So you want to have the majority control in the company because you are the person running it. So you want to potentially have at least 51%. So if you're going to trade 20 to 49% equity in the company, there's really two companies. And I think this is where it's important to make a distinction between the two, because you're going to have your real estate company. The real estate is where the loan is tied to. The collateralization is against the real estate company. It's not really against the operations company. So the real estate company owns the land, owns the building, owns everything, okay? That is where the 20 to 49% equity is. Now, it has to be equal to the risk that the investor is taking. If you're asking them to sign and personally guarantee or to put a second position loan on their house or their rental properties, there's some good risk there, right? They're the passive investor. They're not the ones there every single day. You are. And what happens if you fail? So this needs to be worth their risk. Okay, you've shown the numbers can be a huge win for them, especially when you get to some of these numbers of 20 to plus percent. There's massive amounts of equity and profit that they are going to take place of. But is it worth that guarantee? What number is that? So find that out here. But I think the important distinction is this number does not have to equal the operations number, meaning that you have two separate companies. You have a real estate company, right? Most likely it's an LLC. And then you have an operations company, and most likely that's an LLC. They're two separate entities, and they do not have to share the same equity percentage between the two. The bank will require the first company, right? The real estate company, because that's what they have the loan tied against. That person who has that 20% or more has to personally guarantee. But that's not necessarily the case with the operations company. Your investor may have 0% equity in the operations company if you can set that kind of deal up, or they can have the same amount as the real estate company, or this is where I'm getting at, they can have a completely different amount. Now, if you are going to give away more than 20% to make it worth their while to personally guarantee, then consider this. On the other side, on the operations company, make this percentage worth your while, right? What is equal to your time, your risk of time, your risk of canceling vacations, of not going to kids' events because a staff calls in sick, or COVID happens again. That was a nightmare to run the operations company. What happens during those times? You need to have an appropriate reward for those things. When the business wins, you need to win. And most of that cash flow will come out of the operations company. So how do you take a good sized portion of that is worth your time and your risk of energy? So you can structure this however you like. But I just consider these two things, because there needs to be a win-win between you and the investor. And the investor has legitimate risk on the real estate company during construction, and if they have to personally guarantee. So they need to be rewarded appropriately for that. You have legitimate risk of your time on the operations company. It may be a couple years before you really have a solid crew and a solid team and management in place that's fully trained, right? That you can be stepping back from this and really kind of consider it more of a passive business instead of an active business where you are, working there on the floor. So you will get there with the right systems, and this opportunity does allow for that, but it's not easy. It's at least a year of you being there almost every day to set everything up, to create your culture, to have a winning team. So you need to be rewarded for that. So this is what it looks like. This is how you can structure this deal. I think it's relatively simple. You can get a $2 million building and $500,000 in working capital for interest and furniture and everything that you're going to need with only $250,000 down. And we showed you how you can raise $250,000 from an investor and give them a huge return on their investment. How you can solve this problem of potentially not having all your financial ducks in a row by leveraging the investor's great balance sheet, their great W-2, their great tax returns, and bringing on a winning team, a partnership between you and an investor to go to the bank and say, hey, we got everything, right? I may have all the experience, they may have the stabilization and the finances together, and we're gonna come at this together and make a winning business. So we said at the beginning that we're gonna break down who can do this type of deal, a $2 million memory care mansion. And I think that a lot more people can do this style of deal. Once you have the right guidance and the right structure, it's pretty simple to do this. You don't have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars in your bank to be able to build something like this. I think you do need some money in the bank. I think if you had about $50,000 saved, then you can do this kind of deal. I think $50,000 and you can raise the extra capital, right? You're gonna need some money up front to get started. You're gonna need to invest in your education. You're gonna need to build your tools, your business plan, your financials. You're gonna have to spend some money or some time to get started so that you can come off confident, know what you need to know to go and raise the rest of the money. So if you have saved some money, right, like $50,000, then I think you're in a good spot to do this. If you don't have any money and you don't have a job currently, then I don't think you're ready yet. But if you have a steady income, you're in a steady place in your life, and you have some savings, I think this is a great opportunity for you that you can pretty simply go and structure this so that you can go talk to people and raise money for this kind of deal. Another thing that I think is important to mention is the experience. You do not have to have assisted living experience. You don't have to be a nurse. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to have the experience running one of these before. I never had any experience. My wife never had any experience, and we were able to do this deal. You just need to have some type of applicable experience. Is that business experience? Is it real estate experience? Did you work for some company where you managed a team, where you did scheduling and payrolls? What kind of experience do you have? And then you can hire the gap, right? If you have business experience but no medical experience, you're gonna bring on a manager that has that kind of experience. You don't have to have all the experience, but you should have some type of experience, and then you're gonna leverage that and find somebody to work with you that has the opposite experience that you're gonna need. So I wanna encourage you to pursue a bigger deal. I did a 6-bed and a 3-bed on my first one, and man, I never made any money. I was lucky to break even. Those kind of deals are too small. The numbers do not make sense. Try penciling those numbers out. Tell me if you can make a profit. Tell me if you have one open bed, if you can make a profit, because I don't think you can. I think that those deals lose money. They're intriguing, they're compelling because they're smaller and they're more easy to do, right? You have a $600,000 number instead of a $2 million number, and people are like, oh, I can do the 600,000. No, you can't. You might be able to get the building and the license, but you're not making any money. What's the point of that? Why give 3, 4, 5 years of your life and not make any money, right? You're gonna work twice, 4 times as hard by having a smaller home than a bigger home, because I have insulation, I have multiple managers, I got overflowing staff and a chef. I don't have to handle the drama because I have a bigger deal. So I want to encourage you to look into this, to do a bigger deal, and you can raise this money. Educate yourself on the finances, on raising money. Get your tools together, get some experience with this, and practice. Don't be scared to fail. My first time raising money, doing a presentation on assisted living, man, I was terrible. I was stumbling, I was nervous. I just fumbled my way through it. But that was fine because I considered it a practice run. I did the first 2 where I was like that. And by the 3rd, 4th, 5th, I was like, oh man, I got the hang of this. I got this down. It's not that difficult. I can talk about these numbers. They're pretty simple. So I would encourage everybody to do it. If you need extra help with something like this, I would start with our free foundations training. We have multiple levels of ways and courses that we can help you, but the easiest way to start is our free training. I go through step by step, including all the tools and the structure to raise money, and you can click the link below. I'll put it in the comments to sign up for our free foundations training. So I will catch you on the next one, but I want to encourage you to go big and get the deal done.